Welcome back to another episode of the Me and Money podcast. Elliott, how's it going today?
It's going well. How are you doing?
Doing well. I figured since spooky season, right? Halloween is right around the corner. We should talk about some horror stories and estate planning. What do you
Let's do
think?
it. One of my favorite topics.
Well, favorite in retrospect, right? It's never
Yeah.
a fun thing to
It's
go
never
through.
good, but I like sharing these stories because I don't think people quite realize what can happen if they don't check the account titling or the beneficiary or do their estate plan and
or just not know where things are.
Exactly. And how much money it can cost them, how much lawyers' time, how much headache, administrative nightmares it can be. So that's why it's one of my favorite topics.
I wasn't even thinking about attorney fees, but those aren't fun either. So
no, it's not fun to undo something that should have been done properly.
Yeah. So for listeners today, we're not really going to have like a through line necessarily, but I think you should hang around and listen to all these stories because it could happen to you, right? And hopefully you can take these away and ask, oh, I do have that thing. What's going to happen to that thing when I'm no longer around? Because chances are you probably have someone or some organization in your life that could benefit from that more than attorneys or your favorite state taxing authority. So, Elliott, shall we just maybe go round robin here and pick a story? I'll start. I had one a couple of years back as a pro bono case, and unfortunately, like a younger couple, the husband passed away. He was the majority breadwinner of the house. And most of their assets were not jointly titled. And there was absolutely nothing in place in terms of a will or power of attorneys or any of that stuff. So, most of his employee benefits, right? Like those made it to where they were supposed to. So thankfully they got some life insurance and all those things. It wasn't a ton. They were definitely underinsured. So I think that's probably an estate planning horror story for too many people out there. But there was a loan on the car and they had the mortgage, right? She could not sell the car because she was not titled as owner of the car. So I had to continue making that car payment for the better part of a year after he passed away because it was just such a slow process to get everything through the court. Very similar situation with the mortgage. Like we would have liked to have refinanced that mortgage when rates were not quite what they are now, but wasn't too much we could do because her name wasn't on the mortgage. So this one, I think like there's a lot that could have been done better, but I also think it's just it's an oversight that, especially if people are bringing assets like into a marriage, can be something that you may not even think about, that those titles really do matter when it comes to, making sure that whoever's supposed to inherit them after you pass away, whether it's your spouse or children or a different family member, those are just some really simple things that, you're not going to get a notification about. So,
yeah. So major takeaways, it sounds like make sure you have a will, power of attorney set up, check account titling, check beneficiaries.
Check it all.
Check it all. I like it.
Yeah. All right. You're up, Elliott.
This is one I heard from an attorney a few years ago. And the story was that there were two sons helping mom with finances. Fortunately, one son logged in one day with mom and, unbeknownst to mom and what was happening, changed the beneficiaries on this account because they were already under the login. They were using her login. There wasn't a separate login. Changed it to, I think, the one son and maybe a charitable beneficiary or something else. Mom goes on to live a little bit longer, but then passes away. Obviously, this one son has been disinherited from the majority of the assets and has to sue to get part of these assets and ends up getting, I think, a third. I think it ended up going a third as opposed to 50-50. So significant lawyer time, significant time just to resolve the lawsuit, and then far less than what mom had ever intended. So it was one of those situations where you have to be protective of your passwords, but then also who you're working with and whether you trust them or not. We all think we can trust our children as much as possible, and hopefully we do in most situations, but just being cognizant of a simple online beneficiary can be changed pretty easily and quickly these days with a password. And that can, if you have $1 million or $5 million in the account, whatever you have in that account can now be changed in an instant. So just being highly aware of who's helping you and how you're using your passwords.
Yes.
It's really important.
Yes. Very important to have trusted third parties. Yeah. And honestly, I think that's one of the more underrated value adds of an attorney. Like when they draft this stuff for you, they're going to ask those kind of questions, and that can be like, oh, I don't remember doing that, or I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why it's important to review beneficiaries regularly, right?
Yeah.
If she had logged in and reviewed this again, maybe she would have caught that and been like, what happened there?
So where did the other third go? Was that to the charitable organization? Is that how that shook out?
I think it ended up going to the charitable organization.
Okay.
If I recall correctly.
I'm sure the attorney fees ate into that as well, quite a bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
It was not a good story to hear.
Yeah. I'm just going to tack on a bonus tip there because I have seen this happen. If you're still of working age and have an employer 401k, a lot of times providers change, or I've even seen it where just they update the dashboard, and a lot of times your beneficiaries can just get cleaned out, and what you thought was there is no longer there, and that's a real big one that you don't want to run into. So
I'm going to also add on that because that reminded me, Matt, that if you're working with someone and they have an online place where you can see your beneficiary, but you have submitted a form in the past, I would recommend actually calling them to get that form to see what's on the form. Thankfully, I haven't run into a situation where the person died, but I have seen where the online beneficiary does not match the form.
Interesting.
And so they were going to go, had they died, they would have gone off the form and not the online beneficiary. Very weird case. I've only run into it once, but it's one of those things that made me think of where you'd want to double check that. Could you get it resolved? Maybe, but think about how much pain and time it would take to do that.
That's fascinating. That's terrifying, but fascinating.
It's terrifying, but again, you're relying on a data entry person essentially to take that form, at least in the old days. And I know there's certain providers who still take the beneficiary form as opposed to changing it online. And if they just put it in incorrectly, but you had it on the form, it's just something to keep in mind. So just double check those beneficiaries.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off of yours with maybe not the correct beneficiary situation. I haven't actually seen this playing out, but almost every time that I have a new client coming in and we look at those documents, someone's in there that shouldn't be in there. And it's just a call to action. Again, even if you don't have the documents, just go get them done. But if you do have the documents done, to Elliott's point, you have to review these darn things. And I can't remember exactly what the situation was, but someone inside of a document recently, they just are no longer, shall we say, a person of character. And there were just some questions there. And it's I would not trust them with any amount of money, let alone all of our money. And so that's just something where, again, that can go real bad, real quick. And the joke is always you're trying to avoid the 3 C's, right? Cars, cocaine, and casinos, right? And so when you think about people who may have, shall we just say, impulsive decision-making habits, or don't necessarily know how to steward money properly, it can be more of a curse than a blessing to those people. And so, again, not saying everyone has that, but I do find that every family has someone who's kind of the black sheep or the odd man out, so to speak. And people change over time, right? I think everyone has changed to some degree since 2020 and the social experiment that was. So again, just something where keeping tabs on who these family members are. Are they still fit to make any decision? Are they still fit to inherit money? And if you still want to give them money, is there a better way you can do it? I think those are all really good questions to think about.
That's
So
a really good question. Should the money
not
be unrestricted?
not necessarily an active horror story, but those were definitely some horror stories in the making.
Yeah. I've got another one. And this is around stock certificates. There's probably someone listening to this who still has stock certificates or old paperwork that's in a drawer that shouldn't be there. I had someone come in with file cabinets, like huge file cabinets once into my office. And it was paperwork going back decades. Some stock certificates, some had been deposited, some hadn't. This became almost like a game, like a puzzle hunting game of how do we get through all these documents together? Because there were probably 3 or 4 of these boxes, and like heavy, like hard to lift boxes worth of paperwork to organize things and figure out what still existed and what still didn't. And there were multiple generations involved in this. So people had just died. Money hadn't been translated for the stock certificate or in the online account. So this was just an endless project that took years to conclude. So it's one of those situations that if you inherit a mess, hopefully you are cleaning up that mess as soon as possible. So then your kids or grandkids or whoever that money is going to next don't inherit that further mess. Because it's really hard to clean up estate stuff that's gone wrong in one generation. It becomes, I don't want to say impossible, but it becomes very challenging when you're trying to do it back multiple generations. And expensive, yes.
Because in that case, right, if you do discover issues, like, I'm just thinking out loud here, but it's like you may have to go amend an estate tax return. Like,
yeah, I mean, it didn't come to that, but yeah, like new letters of testamentary that you have to go get, and other attorney fees and times to get this updated, and it just, yeah, it was a nightmare. True horror story.
Yeah. Yikes. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. That one's pretty bad. Yeah. To that note, we'll stick with stocks. This is kind of a joke. Like, I'm not making any suggestions that people move their money, but I don't know why, but for the love of God, like, don't die with something at ComputerShare. Like, I feel like it's a running joke in our field, but for those who don't know, ComputerShare is like a custodial company that can hold shares of like company stock or things like that. But I'll never forget, like, there was one client when I was working at the firm in Texas, and I swear they asked us for like 6 different sets of paperwork, every time reassuring us that this was the right one. And it took like a year to get in this. Unfortunately, like, the majority of her husband's assets were tied up in this company stock. So it's just like, again, it's one of those situations where she was going to be okay, but she was not currently okay because she had no access to the money. And that's really hard. Like, and it just, the longer that goes on, like, you're starting to make some other financial decisions, and just kind of like compounds on top of each other. But
yeah,
it's just one of those things where those company stock plans, like, and I can't even remember what the final issue was, but I think she had originally kept her maiden name and then changed her name, and that was the issue. Like, and it was very hard for them to understand that we had all the name change documents and all these things, that she just, they just wouldn't accept it, and they just kept coming back with more and more and more and more. So, we talk about asset location a lot, like what tax account is it in, or what allocation of investment is it in, but like, is the service provider easier to work with or not is a really good question. And nowadays, like, thank goodness for like Reddit, like, you can get some of these social proofs of like nightmare stories at certain places and hopefully avoid some of those.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. A good case for simplicity and consolidation as you get older.
To the right place.
Yeah, to the right place, for sure. Because there are running jokes among advisors of like, oh, we have to deal with this plan now. This is going to take a while. And I just set it up with clients like, this is going to be a longer phone call, or we may probably get the wrong information depending on the place, and maybe need to call back to verify that before we actually move forward. So that's a good one. Plus name changes. I mean, you didn't specifically draw that out, but I'm going to draw that out there. If you do update your name, whether it's through marriage, divorce, just changing your name, that's actually really important to update your accounts. You may not think it isn't, but you may think that's not important, but it actually becomes very important if you pass away. That becomes harder to deal with on top of all the other paperwork that you have to deal with. So consider it a gift if you just go update that anytime that you need to update your name.
Especially if you don't have a will. But
yes,
for the love of God, get a will.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Whose turn is it? I don't know. We're piggybacking.
Yeah, no, I think it's my turn. So we've hit, I'm just trying to think about the common ones. We've hit on beneficiaries. We've hit on account titling. We've hit on wrong beneficiaries. I just want to go back to the beneficiary one because this is one I see come up in forums a lot, like on Reddit and that sort of thing. It's either a lost 401k plan, a small life insurance policy. Maybe it's their main plan. I don't know. But maybe an ex-spouse is listed on the plan and they don't actually want it to go into the ex-spouse. Depending on your state's laws, if that's still your ex-spouse, they may still get that if they're the primary beneficiary. Or maybe people are listing kids as 50%, like contingent beneficiaries. Say you have 2 kids and your kids are minors. That's generally not the best strategy, just because most people, one, minors can't inherit money, so it goes to a guardian or a custodian to do that. But then 2, if it's a lot of money, they may gain access to that at age 18. So if you have $1 million going to each kid, do you really want your 18-year-old getting access to $1 million? This is sort of a hypothetical, but I know this has existed out there where someone, whether it's a kid, someone who has substance use issues, or just is generally bad with money, gets a large lump sum of money. And large could be 10 grand, it could be $10 million. And they blow through it in usually less than a year and makes their life worse. So that's just something to be aware of, checking beneficiaries and can they actually handle that money, or should it be set up in a trust and doled out to them over time?
Yes. And I'm going to just jump right onto this one too, because it was probably 3 months ago. I had someone called asking if we could help them. And, I just started poking around, understanding what they wanted help with. And his real question was, can you read my trust documents? Because my attorney is saying I can't take out more than this amount of money. I think it was like a corporate trustee situation. And some of the questions, I'm just like, well, okay, does it say how much you can take out? What are you trying to take it out for? And he kept beating around the bush. And push come to shove, I just kept hitting him with the same question over and over. I knew I wasn't going to work with this guy, but I was just curious. And he's like, oh, I just want to go on vacation. And I'm like, well, where? And he's like, to Vegas. And I'm like, there's no way you're getting more money out of that trust than their trustee is doing their job. That's what they're there for, right? It's to protect the money that you gave them. So yeah. But, and I'll also just jump on the fact of the amount of estate plans I see with minor children involved where there is no trust or guardianship or any of those things in place. Again, thank God I haven't seen it playing out where it actually happens, but it's terrifying to think of what could happen.
Yeah, because it does happen plenty of times.
Yeah. So on that note, I've seen my fair share of unfunded trusts as well. So again, maybe you're listening to this, maybe you're an A+ student out there and you've already gotten all your documents set up and you got that fancy schmancy trust put together. But maybe you never titled your house to the trust. Maybe some of those other assets are not properly set up with beneficiaries, to Elliott's point, where they're actually going to land where you want them to land. And this is just it's kind of like the routine ground ball in baseball that you just throw it right over the first baseman's head. It's should have been an easy thing. You were set up and everything was in the right place. And then you just really screwed the pooch there at the last second to ruin all your hard work in many ways, right? You paid good money for those estate planning documents. Likely you probably did a good job and had a lot of assets set to be inherited. And then, just that last little thing ruined all of it. So
It's like building a house but never moving into it.
Yeah.
And I see this regularly, Matt. I've gone through this in the past year, and there's probably 3 or 4 examples where I catch something, stray bank account, something out there that's not titled in the name of the trust, or they just put transfer on death beneficiaries on it. I've seen that recently, and that's not the best planning strategy either. Will it get to the right people eventually? Yes, but there's also the living part of this that is different because you're operating based on trust documents as opposed to POA documents now at that point. So it's important to follow through with your attorney recommendations. And I see this highlighted on more attorney recommendations these days of the most important part of this plan now, I've actually seen that written, is to actually fund the trust. And I say this somewhat sarcastically, but I think I want to belabor the point because I see this so frequently of actually follow through. You spent really good money on the trust. I know that much. You spent all that time to think through the trust provisions, but now no money's actually in the trust if you don't actually fund it. So yes, 100%. Fund the trust if that's what your attorney suggested.
And sometimes there are valid reasons to wait, but you can't forget. Like, you can't forget.
Yeah.
What else, Elliot? There's got to be some... It's funny you said the TOD thing, so I'm like, oh yeah, because people are just doing that all the time. Like,
yes. And that could be its own horror story of people name a TOD and they don't leave any money in the estate to pay the bills when they pass away, right? There's just maybe a house and that's an illiquid asset. So now beneficiaries have to come up with that money and hope they get reimbursed. I've seen that happen. So it's just one of those things where you may think adding a beneficiary is a quick, easy solution to things. And it is a quick, easy solution, but it might not be the right solution.
Yeah. What you just said sparked my mind for the next one, but I'm going to let you go. Oh, sometimes having too many beneficiaries can be a real problem. Like, especially you said illiquid assets, and like immediately, like being here in the Midwest just reminds me of all those people I've seen inherit land from their parents, where it's like
big farms.
Oh yeah, like this land is worth a lot of money, but how the heck are we going to sell it? Like, and we want to keep it in the family, and so my brother is going to buy us out, but where's your brother getting the money? Like, it's just one of those things where, again, I understand the intent of I want to leave an equal share of everything I have to everyone. However, like, I think it goes to the theme of our estate planning marathon here. It's like, well, if you know the brother wants to run the farm, like, and let's say all's equal elsewhere, like there's $1 million of land, $1 million of IRA. I know there's tax differences on those things. However, there's also unique challenges with each of those things.
Yeah.
If one person really wants the farm, like give them the farm and give the other one the IRA. Like, it doesn't have to be everyone's equal. Like, and usually it's not just two people. Like, especially with the farmers usually have fairly large families. And then it gets like fractionalized even more across generations. And then people want to sell, but no one wants to buy. And it's just a mess. And then everyone ends up with a big number on their net worth that they can do nothing with. And it's just not great. So,
or I've seen it before where someone sues and compels everybody to sell. Right? That can also happen.
And then there's a different kind of bad blood, right?
Exactly. But it can be as simple as two people inheriting a house, right? Childhood home. Someone wants to keep it, someone wants to live in it, and then family dynamics come into play. I mean, you go scour Reddit. Homes being inherited by multiple people of the next generation. I feel like it's one of the most common horror stories that I hear on there. And it's, again, going back to let's true it up with a different asset, even if it's not 100% equal. Or this would be a good example of where you might want to use life insurance to true it up. It's not, I don't have enough money maybe outside of the house to do that. Let's buy a small life insurance policy to true it up, just as an example.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm getting a little bit more into like maximizing mindset, but it's like, I even see that sometimes where like everyone wants to leave a third of their Roth IRA to this child and a third of their IRA to that child. And it's like, yeah, but one of your children doesn't work. Like, really good candidate for the IRA here. Like, a lot less taxable income to worry about. So I guess the horror story there could just be like trying to be too simple, like, right? Like, I'm just gonna give everyone a third of everything, like
Yeah.
versus not being strategic.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of like the theme I'm pulling out of there.
Yeah, too simple. And I would, again, go back to the idea of a liquid assets with multiple people with different priorities and values generally is not a great idea. I mean,
No.
think about like people who have been married, how hard it is to decide how to make decisions as a family, just the two of you on life-changing things. Now imagine when there's multiple people with spouses and grandkids and other sort of competing priorities in that.
Sounds like a reality TV show.
Yeah, we should probably pitch that maybe to Netflix or something else. Horror stories gone wrong. It could be the next personal finance learning opportunity, I guess.
Yeah, it'd be like like that show, like $1 million lottery winner or what, like dream house lottery. I don't know. There's one where like people win the lottery and then they go like spend all the money. Basically, it seems.
I haven't seen
Which
that one yet.
it's on HGTV. I'm pretty sure, like My Lottery Dream House or something.
Okay.
Meets like Real Housewives. Like that's kind of what I'm envisioning here.
Yeah.
Trash
That's
TV
great.
through and through. But
Yeah. That's all I had.
no.
Do you have others?
Well, I had one more. It kind of went back to what you were saying about like the stock certificates, but the amount of times I like when people inherit assets, especially like taxable brokerage accounts, and there's just like this missing record of cost basis. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it seems to always happen to those people, but that can be really challenging sometimes. Like, or if you have some of those legacy accounts that just have non-covered shares or something like that, and the parents didn't even know their cost basis, let alone now the, you know, that kind of thing. So I know there's usually a step up in basis there, so it's not a huge issue, but it just blows my mind sometimes how like after that initial transition happens from, you know, successor to success E, like where some of this information just gets vacuumed out into space, and it's like, well, what are we supposed to do with that? You know?
Yeah. Thankfully, there's a step up in most cases, so that can
Yeah,
also be a strategy to just wait it out.
yeah, but just be detailed, like detail oriented. Keep a paper trail. It sounds like your pro bono with the filing cabinets did too good of a job of the paper trail, but
Yeah.
more information is better than no information, in my opinion.
Definitely more information. And I encourage anybody listening to this, go browse Reddit. There's some great stories within estate planning or an inheritance and personal finance, that sort of thing, of like what went wrong. And then you can start to think through like how simple this would have been to correct on the front side, but how challenging it is on the back side. Because that's my experience in all of these is it takes 15 minutes or it takes 10 hours in an attorney's time or something like that, as opposed to
Days, weeks, months,
years.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll end on that note. But yeah, I'm glad we did estate planning, but I'm excited to move on to something else next time. So
Same, Matt. Thanks, you.
see you.